Now, leaving aside the habits part, right? Let's go back 15 years back. You started writing.
Yeah.
What was the mindset that you had? One, because it was, I remember you saying that in the blogging world, you're a dinosaur. Yeah. Like, what was your mindset like? Setting that to self-direction is super hard. What was your take on?
Right.
That?
So, I don't know. I think I got into this in sort of a weird way too. I think like the correct story, like the story I'm supposed to tell, is sort of like, oh, I just started writing because it was my passion. And then it just like, ooh, who knows? I became, successful at it. That's the story that I think people like, you kind of like, people often like practice these sort of like they were successful by accident sort of narratives. I think it just makes them seem more human and relatable. But I don't think that was what it was at all for me. Like from the get-go, the thing that I was interested in was running an online business. And I really liked this idea of being my own boss and stuff. So that was very much in the background from the beginning. I mean, is blogging a good strategy to do that? Probably not. I think that was maybe also just my own like naivete and stuff. But in 2006, I mean, there were people who were starting to do that. And I was thinking, well, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do business wise, but I thought, you know what, I'll do some writing and that'll kind of create a website and a platform. And then I can kind of figure things out. And so it sort of started from there. And then I think where it started to take off was when I wrote Learn More, Study Less, which was a couple years in. And then I actually was getting some sales from that. And it was sort of like, okay, people like this learning advice angle. I was a student. It was probably the only thing I was qualified to give any advice on. Even then, that's questionable. And so I was, that's sort of how I got started into it. But I think like when I actually started, it was, I wanted to do something that might lead to a career. And so I think that is unusual and it's sort of weird and ambitious to say it that way. So I mean, I think people don't like people who are sort of like, oh yeah, I'm going to make lots of money from this or this kind of thing. But I think when I started out, my idea was very much like, I'd like to do this. I'd like to do not necessarily blogging, but I'd like to do something online creative for a living. And so I think I was a little bit ahead of the curve there on that, because that was a very new, weird sort of fake thing when I was doing it. Whereas now I think the idea that like people are influencers or YouTubers or streamers or whatever version of ERS you want to talk about, that's a thing now. That, it's very difficult. I think I was naive in a sense that, I don't think I've fully appreciated just how stringent the kind of like work I would have to do to get to that point. But I think that, I think that was very much my goal in the beginning. And I think that also was part of the reason that I worked really hard at it, because I was thinking, oh, well, I might want to do something like this for a living, as opposed to just, this is just for fun. And then like, oops, I guess I'm successful at it. I don't know. People like to talk about these narratives all the time, which are like this, which I also think is, it's done to make the person seem relatable, but I think it makes the path to becoming good at things where very few people succeed even more opaque, because it makes it look like people are like the people who succeed are not even trying, when I know these people personally, like they are very much trying. They put in enormous amounts of effort into these pursuits.
Correct.